Galaxies are disappearing, the Void Eaters are here. Part 1. The Catalyst of Chaos. In the sprawling expanse of the Galactic Empire, where planets thrummed with the hum of machinery and starlight shimmered in the void, a shroud of darkness began to descend. The Empire had stood for millennia, a bastion of order and civilization amidst the chaos of the universe. Yet, beneath the glimmering facade lay the seeds of a nightmare. It began with a ripple in the fabric of space, an unsettling distortion, a flickering of starlight. Communication channels buzzed with frantic reports from the outer colonies, voices trembling with terror. They came out of nowhere, a beleaguered commander transmitted. The Void Eaters, planets disappearing, swallowed whole. Imperial admirals gathered in grandeur among the towering spires of the Empire's fleet command. Their advanced energy weapons and sophisticated tactics had quelled countless rebellions and quelled plethora of extraterrestrial threats. Yet, this was something different, something unfathomable. Unbeknownst to them, the Void Eaters were no ordinary creature, they were entities from the unfathomable void, harvesting matter and energy as a feast. Desperation clung to the air like smoke as legions of ships were deployed, but one by one they vanished into nothingness, consumed by shadows swirling with insatiable hunger. The Empire's might was rendered impotent, and panic gripped the heart of the ruling class. As entire systems blinked off the charts, an anxious message pulsed through channels, urging all factions to converge, an emergency summit of power that would attempt to make sense of the incomprehensible. Part 2. The Outcast's Insight. In the fringes of the Empire, beyond the grand palaces and glittering fleets, a human scientist named Dr. Aidan Mackenzie peered through a tangle of discarded technology. Once banished for his radical theories, once laughed at for mixing grimy old human tech with scraps from fallen alien ships, he now found solace among the cast-offs of progress. Today, however, chaos reigned not in the shadows but in his mind. He stared at the projections, the patterns of energy fluctuations and anomalies caught in void storms. Those who were once complacent now hailed him as a genius. A single thought coursed through his brain like electric fire: perhaps they are not devouring the matter, perhaps they are converting it. The realization hit him with the force of a supernova. The Void Eaters weren't destroying stars, they were transforming them into something intrinsically different, elements forged in the crucible of cosmic madness, or reality beyond ordinary comprehension. He scrambled to construct his thoughts, scribbling star maps and equations on the wall. His lofty ideas, once dismissed as the wild ramblings of an eccentric, somehow became the last glimmer of hope in a galaxy riddled with despair. Part 3. The Meeting of Minds. Word of Mackenzie's discovery reached the summit within the Empire's command, igniting debate amongst its ranks. Representatives of species who had formed the Empire's backbone were torn between pride and necessity. Inviting humanity, a primitive species, in their eyes, felt like relenting to the chaos themselves. But as communication reports hinted at more extinguished stars and more frantic pleas from colonies they once governed, they found themselves cornered. At the summit, grim faces turned towards the dais where Mackenzie stood, flanked by the remnants of his experimental technology. "You seek not to battle the void," he declared, his voice steady despite the tremor of fear coursing through the assembly. "You seek to disrupt what they are doing to our planets and to unify chaos into method. The advanced methods of the Empire may have become predictable, unfortunately, unpredictability is the essence of life. It's madness," a high-ranking admiral scoffed. The whispers of ridicule rustled through the room. "But what have we to lose?" interjected another, a grizzled war veteran who had witnessed countless losses. "If we rely solely on our technology, we are already defeated. Perhaps, our best shot, and the last, lies beyond our own creations." The murmurs of dissent gave way to an agreement wrought from desperation. The Empire's command had no choice but to bow before the intelligence of a single human who had dared to think differently. Part 4. Assembling the Fleet. Weeks passed as Mackenzie worked tirelessly, collaborating with engineers to jury-rig makeshift vessels. The human fleet was a motley assembly, nimble ships whirred and hummed with chaotic energy as they embraced oddball modifications. In contrast, the Imperial fleet, majestic and gleaming, looked like they had stepped from an age long since past, intricate designs blended with aesthetic, functionality sacrificed at the altar of beauty. The human vessels emerged, oftentimes with odd protrusions crafted from scavenged materials, antennas gleamed with twisted wires pulsing with unusual resonance waves, and some boasted eccentricities like melody-emitting panels which vibrated at frequencies to distract, confuse, and somehow blind the Void Eaters themselves to their presence. A camaraderie blossomed among the fragmented crews, bound by shared determination against a common foe. Friends were forged out of survival, and unlikely alliances formed amidst laughter, chaos, and fear. Young pilots fumbled through their makeshift trainings as older crews remedied each other's mistakes. Humanity's strengths, adaptability and spirited innovation, shone magnificently as they shared tales of love and loss too consequential for one life. Part 5. First Contact. The day of reckoning arrived when word filtered through channels of another monumental emergence in the Terra X system. Those brave, unrefined human vessels, now fully operational and infused with a spirit of rebellion against the void, bolted through space towards destiny. Mackenzie was pacing amidst hissing valves and flickering lights. The quiet resolve in the eyes of his crew settled into iron. "We've studied their movements, and we've plotted their trajectory," he shouted over the roar of the engines, his voice cutting through the tension. "We may be no match to them, but we shall aim to disorient their feeding process. We disrupt, we create chaos." They arrived at Terra X, a jewel of civilization teetering on the brink of annihilation, merely a blink away from becoming another victim of the Void Eaters. The fear that had wrenched at their hearts began piercing with determination as human ingenuity guided them through patterns of detached existence. As the dark forms began to descend, elongated shadows curling around the planets, Mackenzie barked orders. Coordinated chaos erupted. They unleashed strange acoustic waves, pulsating frequencies that danced wildly amidst the void, and illuminated their crafts with bizarre signatures of energy harmonic. Part 6. The Battle of Resonance. Nothing could have prepared them for the raw, primal fury of the Void Eaters. As their tendrils lashed out like swirling maelstrom, the human craft darted through the tightening web, vibrations rippling behind them. The moment was surreal, a cacophony of energy and resistance. The Imperial ships hovered with poise, firing their energy weapons with predictability, only to watch them dissipate into nothingness. But as the Eater turned its gaze toward the improvised ballet of the ragtag human fleet, something mystical and extraordinary occurred. The Void Eaters quivered momentarily, as Mackenzie's chaotic frequencies rippled outward, knitting strange patterns across the space surrounding them. Granite-like walls twisted, and the void howled a desperate song as though the entities were in anguish against the sunlit chaos of humanity. Emerging from the chaos came human ingenuity, newfound strategies flowing like electric pulse as they danced through the tumult. The human fleet didn't follow protocols, they imbued chaos into their maneuvers. Ships weaved in and out of danger, laying traps one moment, stumbling through scattered debris the next. Working as one, practically in harmony, they disrupted the conversion process, flickering forms wrestling against the deep. Humanity's grasp on the bizarre, the vibrations of hope shielding them against the dark, they found their strength in unpredictability. Part 7. Light in the Abyss. In the grip of confrontation, victory seemed elusive as they fought against the consuming tendrils, but hope ignited like starlight. With each moment they converted the primal plane of devastation into the rich cacophony of life, propelled by a purpose that forged sanctity beyond the reaching void. "Hold your positions." Mackenzie barked, adrenaline suffusing every cell. What they would become in battle could only be defined through their resilience as mortals, speeding recklessly toward a purpose severed from perfection. With an unprecedented surge of coordinated energy, the makeshift fleet discharged the final modulations, and the fusion of sound and light exploded across the battlefield. Their hearts bled tenaciously, their vessels merged into spiraling arcs of light. The Void Eaters, for the first time, began to falter, their insatiable hunger twisted veil breaking against the fragile beauty of invention. With a final surge, they pulled away the void's icy grip, illuminating what lay beyond, the hope of life redefined in hues of a billion colors, galvanized from the depths of imperfection. Part 8. The Transformation. In the aftermath, a mighty silence fell across the battlefield. The remnants of the once mighty Void Eaters melted away into shimmering dust, scattering like stars. The rumbles of war ceased as space lay soaked in the light of survival. It wasn't perfect, the human fleet had paid a price. But survivors emerged amidst the echoes of battle, threads of shared experience tightly woven against the Void's dreadful ambition. The Imperial Command, watching from their grand ships, faced the reality of a simmering revolution against their perspective. The human race, wild, chaotic, and diverse, had illuminated their most extraordinary attributes, surpassing expectations forged by comfort and familiarity. They were not the underestimated underdogs, they held the capacity of life beyond mere existence. Part 9. A New Dawn. As hydrofires began licking at the exterior of the remaining Imperial ships, the alliance between humanity and the Empire solidified itself like the stone formations of their existence, a myrolith, a promise of new bonds. Dr. Aidan Mackenzie stood among his peers, contemplating the horizon beyond. Amidst the mundane laughter and unveiling camaraderie, the path to reconciliation pulsated with possibility, and mutual respect began fertile growth. The Empire, awash with humility, needed the human insight now more than ever. They consented to allow each unique faction in service of a vision far beyond themselves, a realization that their unity had the power to challenge even the cosmos' darkest elements. In a universe filled with horrors and wonders, it was not sophistication but the raw spirit of life, the determination and resilience of humanity, that would persist in the face of the void. And as stars began to twinkle once more, horizontal rays gleaming through the dark, the journey departed towards realms undiscovered, new alliances forged beyond preposterous limitation, as the Galactic Empire ached for new stories to be spun together once more.